What happens when a seller passes away during an escrow? Sad story, obviously. It's horrible for the family, it's horrible for everyone and what everyone has to go through. But I think there's some lessons to be learned as well. And I think it's important to talk about them. So I'm actually sitting here waiting for a client of mine so we can go see a property. A client that knows me well, which is why I don't have any makeup on or anything. And I'm just going to throw this out here because honestly, I was thinking about it, and I think like I said, it's important to talk about, and was on my mind. So we had a property recently where I had the buyers, and the listing agents were fantastic, amazing people to work with. Thank God, because what happened was the poor seller, he passed away. We were right in the middle of doing the inspection requests. So we had gotten past the inspection. We asked the seller to fix a few things, and they were working on that. And he had been sick. And I do remember thinking that I noticed when I pulled up the information for the seller when I was drafting the offer that it was not a trust. And so I actually heard from the listing agent that the seller had been sick, and pretty severely, maybe isn't the word, but it was a big deal. And I remember thinking, that wasn't it's not in a trust. I wonder, but it's in 20, I think I'm now about 27 years in, and I do not recall this ever happening before. So I guess I just didn't think much about it. And then a few days later, because we were just getting to the point of inspection, I got an email that said that he had passed away. So what happens, right? So in California, and I can't speak, and I'm not an attorney, I am trust and probate certified in the state of California, but everybody's situation is different. It is going to be how they held title and all sorts of different things, and it's always going to be good to speak to an attorney. What ended up happening here was, again, property was not in a trust. It was only in that owner's name. He was either married or long-term girlfriend. And he also had a sister up in Canada who flew down immediately when this happened. So this situation, what ended up happening was the family said, listen, his wishes were for this property to proceed, to be sold to these buyers. And we know this is what he wanted. And we're going to make sure that that happens. And, not every family is going to feel that way. There is going to be families where there could be disagreement. And somebody says, well, no, I want the property or whatever, right? So in this particular case, though, everybody was in agreement. The listing agent, again, fantastic agent, would love to work with them any day or time. She knew of a good probate attorney here in the area who knows the area, also knows just Southern California in general, knew who the Orange County judge was, all the things, because the seller lived in Orange County. This was a second home for him. So the probate attorney got on top of it right away. The buyers wrote a letter about what was going on with their loan, how much time do we have before the rate lock expires, what is our situation, so that the court could take it just into account. The seller's family went in and they said, basically, no, we want this property to move forward. And in this particular case, it was unbelievable. We ended up closing literally not even a week after our original close date. Those things tend to happen anyway. One little thing can go wrong. The loan docs aren't prepared in time. It pushes you out a few days, whatever. That's kind of normal course of action. So it was actually amazing that we ended up having that close as soon as possible. However, that was an unusual situation, and it was a blessing for us. My buyers were so grateful to the seller's family that in their time of loss and mourning, that they still took the time to go to court and just the nicest people. I can only imagine what they were having to deal with in the middle of all that. So anyway, I mean, honestly, almost kind of chokes me up about how amazing and kind everybody was in this situation. Um, but here's the thing. If you have property and any amount of, money, property, wealth of any kind even a small amount that you want to make sure that your heirs get and that your wishes are taken into account, having the property in a trust is going to be really important. At least, again, in the state of California, and there can be certain circumstances. For instance, I can tell you, my husband and I hold title here with, and we need to get a trust too. I will tell you, I do these videos all the time, and every time I get off, I'm like, we need to do this too. But we hold our property in community property with right of survivorship. And that way, if something were to happen to one of us, the other one would be able to move forward with anything that was going on with that property. But not everybody's going to have that situation. It's not, and it's something that you can do. Another thing you can do is a transfer on death deed. It's not always advised, and you really want to talk to an attorney first. You want to make sure, because all of these things are going to be dependent. Again, I'm going to say it again, broken record here and CYA, but it's going to be your circumstances dependent. However, if all you have is just your regular, it's just held, the title's just held in a normal way, and you've got anything worth any value, probate is long, it can be expensive, and it's unnecessary. In fact, I would say that in most cases, probate would be more expensive than just going ahead and getting everything in a trust. And once it's in a trust, and don't get the trust and then not put your home in the trust, because that happened as well. And of course, right now I'm not remembering the name of there was sort of a shortened probate scenario that if it seems very clear in the trust paperwork that the home was meant to be recorded in the trust, then there is a sort of shortened probate period that you can go through that costs a little less money, but it's still going to take time. It's going to be thousands of dollars up front. And a Hagstead petition, that's what it's called. And it is something that can be done, but it is certainly not if you went to all the trouble of putting a trust together and then you don't record the property in the trust, then you're gonna have to go through this Hagstead petition. You're gonna have to, and maybe even probate still, because if the trust wasn't clear that the property was supposed to be in it, then that's an issue too. So if you're going along, and again, I did another video, it's a while back, about another circumstance where it was a husband and wife. They didn't have the property. It didn't, at this point, it wouldn't matter, and it wouldn't matter for me and my husband either. They wanted to get the house sold, and he ended up going into a coma. Again, horrible situation. So you're dealing with all these legal things, but during a time when it's so hard for you and your family to be going through tough health and medical situations, death, all these things, it's awful. And then you have to deal with all this stuff on top of it, when that part could just be easily handled. So in that case where he was in a coma, if you would have had a trust or at least a power of attorney, she could have continued and moved forward to actually sell the property. And because she didn't have that, she was unable to. We were literally waiting for him to either wake up or pass. I mean, what a horrible scenario for that to be, but she really wanted this property sold, and we couldn't do anything because he was in a coma. And like, we are stuck, or she would have had to go through a court to get him, declared, obviously he can't do anything right now, but she would have had to go through a whole court proceeding in order to do that. So, moral of the story, right now, before you even turn off this video, make yourself a reminder. If it's Sunday or whatever, make yourself a reminder to call the next opportunity and speak to an attorney. Now, I have several trust and probate attorneys that I work with here in the Valley, And the gal who helped us for that one was so on top of things. She was fantastic. So I have a couple that I can refer you to if you're in, I think, anywhere in probably California, but Southern California for sure. These would be really great people to work with. And I am more than happy to just provide that information at any point in time. You just let me know and I will get back to you right away with that info. In the meantime, I really hope everyone's having a great day and is not dealing with something like this. But if you are, I really hope that you will be able to be prepared so that you're not having to deal with such a rough circumstance in the meantime. So, all right, take care of yourselves.